عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد سيدنا والآخرين. مدد يا رسول الله، مدد يا سادات أصحاب رسول الله، مدد يا مشايخ دستور مولانا شيخ الله فرزان شيخ محمد الرحمن، مدد طريقات الصحابة والخير في الجمعية. لاهية قلوبهم وأسر النجوى. صدق الله العظيم. İnsan kalbi başka yerde olur.
A person's heart may be somewhere.
Düşüncesi başka yerde olur.
A person's mind or thoughts may be somewhere.
İnsan gaflette oluyor.
And thus a person may be distracted and be in a state of heedlessness.
O zamanın daha fazla gaflet, fazla.
We now live in a time where people are in a state of being more inattentive, being more heedless compared to previously.
Daha çok eski insanların zamanında böyle oyalayacak şeyler çok fazla yoktu.
In former times, there were not so many things available that would distract and occupy people compared to today.
Herkes işine gücüne bakar.
In former times, everyone would do their jobs and perform their work.
Okuyacak okur, okumayacak çalışır.
Those who would study, they would pursue their studies. Those who did not study would pursue their work.
Şimdi hepsini bir tek Allah Azzevacal yarattığı insanları, bu insanlar kendi kafalarına göre tek tip yapmak isterler.
However, people, they like to do things their own way and based on their own thoughts and based on their own likings. They make up things.
Kalıba koymak isterler.
And they like to put people into a shape they consider best themselves based on their own thoughts, in contradiction to the way Allah Almighty wants them to be.
Koyuyorlar kalıba, ondan sonra kalıp işe yaramıyor.
And thus we see that people are forced into a shape, and then people in that shape are in a state that they are useless.
Bu defa bu kadar insan ne olacak? Hiç işte o kalıba girmeyenler de kalıba sokmak isterler.
And those who try to resist, they are also forced to be put into that shape.
Hiçbirinde hayır çıkmasın diye.
And they want to put people into a shape in which they have become useless and in which they do no longer benefit each other.
Bu eski insanlar şimdi zeka da kalmadı, akıl da kalmadı.
And compared to former people, we now live in a time where people even have lost their minds and have lost their intelligence.
Onlar hepsini aletlere devrettiler.
And people have transferred everything they have to the machines.
Yapay zeka diyor.
And they call it something like artificial intelligence.
O bizim işimizi o görecek biz.
And they are confident that artificial intelligence will take care of their jobs.
Oyun, eğlence yapalım yeter.
And they think that while artificial intelligence will do everything for themselves, they can focus on entertaining and playing around.
Keyfimize bakalım, başka şey istemezler.
All they want is to enjoy themselves.
Olsa aletler bizim yerimize bakar.
And they think that the machines will do the work for them.
Aklımızı da artık kullanmaya gerek yok.
And they say we also now no longer need to use our minds to think.
O makine bakıyor.
The machines will take care of that, they say.
Eline vermişler çoluk çocuğun, büyüğün, küçüğün.
And now we see that everyone have devices in their hands, whether little ones or old ones. Everyone has those devices in their hands.
Bu zımpırtıyı ondan oyalanıp bütün vakit
and everyone is distracted by that nuisance and wastes their time.
Başka şeye bakmıyor.
And they are not interested in anything else.
Okuyan da öyle, okuduğu vakit onun için bir ne anlıyor ne öğreniyor.
And this applies to everyone. Also those who study and those who seek knowledge, they are distracted by those things. They are unable to think. They are unable to reason.
Boşuna seneler geçiyor.
They spend their years for nothing.
Ondan sonra da hayır görmeye uğraşıyorlar.
And they think that by being distracted, that they will see some benefit.
Bu mesele talebe oldu mu, talebe kendi dersine bakması lazım.
But a student should study himself. The student should reason himself and not leave it to the machines, and the students should do their homework themselves.
Bu makine sen yerine düşünmemesi lazım. Düşünürse
you should not hand over your capability of thinking and reasoning to the machines.
İşine yaramaz. Sen hiçbir işe yaramazsın.
If you do not reason yourself, if you do not think yourself, but leave it to the machines, then there will be no benefit for you and you will be of no use.
Çoluk çocuk bu şeye musallat olmuşlar. Esir almışlar onları.
And people are now plagued by this affliction of the machines, and people are in a state of being enslaved by those devices and machines.
O makine hudut koymamışlar.
And people are using those machines without setting any limits.
Hudut, her şeye sınırı var, hududu var.
But everything should and must have a limit.
Onu geçmemek lazım.
And one must respect those limits and one must not trespass those limits.
Bir şeyden faydalanacaksan bir sınır var.
If you want to benefit from something, you must be well aware that there must be a limit of how to use it.
Bütün vakit o sınırı geçersen sen o şeye mahkum olursun. Ya nefsine mahkum olursun ya alet edavata mahkum olursun.
If you, however, do not respect those limits but constantly use it without any limitations, then you will subdue yourselves and you will become enslaved by your ego or by those machines.
Onun için dikkat etmek lazım.
Therefore, one needs to be careful.
Eski insanlar çok değişik bir insanlardı.
Former people were very different compared to today's people.
Talebe giderdi okumaya.
For example, students they would go to places in order to study.
Gittiği yerden ailesinden uzak.
And they would go to remote places far away from their families.
Şimdiki gibi değil, dakikada bir annesi arar, yok.
And they would have no means to connect with their families, not like today, where they talk to their mother constantly.
Dakikada bir kardeşi, arkadaşı, şu buyu.
Or where they constantly talk to their friends or sisters or brothers.
Ne oldu ne kaldı?
And where they constantly ask about how things are going.
O vakit, gittiği vakit araba yok, tayyare yok.
In former times, people would have no means to connect. There would be no cars, there would be no planes.
Mektup gelene kadar 6 ay ister.
And it would take 6 months for a mail to arrive.
En büyük alimlerden biri, evliyadan biri, İmam Gazali Hazretleri.
Imam Ghazali was one of the great awliya and one of the great scholars.
Diyor ben okumaya gittim.
And he described himself that he left in order to study and seek knowledge.
6 ay sonra bir mektup geldi.
And he said that after 6 months he received a message
Ailemden.
From his family.
Bu mektubu açmadım diyor.
And he said, I did not open that message.
Daha sonra gelen oldu.
Then after a considerable amount of time, another message came. Then after some time again, a message came.
Hepsini üst üste koydu.
And he said, I stacked all those messages without opening them.
7 sene sonra mektubu açtı. Gelen mektup.
After 7 years, he said, I opened the first mail, the first message.
Annen öldü de mektup gelmiş.
And that mail was about the death of my mother, Imam Ghazali said.
Onu açsaydım zaten bu ilimleri almazdım.
And Imam Ghazali said, if I had opened that mail, that message, the first time it came, that would have distracted me from pursuing my studies. So that is why I did not open that. Why I did not open that.
Kafam karışırdı. Bir istifade edemezdim.
And I would have been distracted by that notification, and I could have not focused and concentrated on my studies, Imam Ghazali said.
Yani düşünün, o 6 ayda bir gelen mektubu bile açmadı.
Just imagine, he did not open a message that would take 6 months to arrive.
Şimdiki insanların haline bak. Bunlar nasıl okuyacak, nasıl fayda olacak?
And look how people are today. They constantly receive messages, and they're more occupied with reading messages compared to actually studying.
Allah muhafaza etsin.
May Allah Almighty protect us.
Tam yani esir olmuş insanlar.
People are in a state of being enslaved, truly.
Onlardan ayrılamıyor. Çoluk çocuk desen aynı şekilde.
And people, they cannot get rid of that dependency. And whether it's children or grown-ups, they're all alike.
Ya bunlara en azından bir sınır koymak lazım.
And even if you cannot resist using those things, you must set limits.
Hele bu medrese okuyan talebelere, onların o telefon, medrese mi istiyorsun, telefon mu istiyorsun?
And especially those children, youngsters who want to study at the madrasa, pursue Islamic studies, they must make a choice and decide, do they want to have their mobile phones or do they want to study?
Telefon istiyorsun. Hadi kardeşim, al telefonunu, git evinde istediğin kadar.
If you prefer a mobile phone, then take your phone and go home with that.
Oyna. Bak.
Play as much as you like. Watch videos as much as you like.
Yok. Medrese istiyorsan telefonu bırakacaksın.
But if you decide for the madrasa, if you decide to study, then leave your phone aside.
Yok artık bundan sonra telefon.
From now on, there's no mobile phone for you.
Telefon haftada bir olabilir, bir 15-20 dakika.
You may check your phone maybe once a week for 15 or 20 minutes.
Ailenle görüşmek istersen,
to talk to your family maybe,
şununla bunu görüşmek istersen,
or to make calls.
O öyle, bu şartla.
That you must set conditions such as these.
Koymak lazım. Bu medreseler için, öteki talebeler.
And these are conditions one must set, especially for those who study at the madrasa.
İçinde aynı olması lazım.
But also, all other students, they also should set limits and conditions when it comes to the use of those devices.
Onlara da hadi haftada bir değil de günde 10 dakika 20 dakika yeter.
So for example, the usage should be limited to just once daily.
Acıma yok.
And one should set a limit to just use those devices once daily. And one should not feel sorry.
Acırsan kendi acıma değil, o senin acınacak halindir, ondan sonra olur.
And to be very strict in this regard, this is not a matter of not being merciful. No, if you give in, if you show tolerance in this affair, then you will be in a state where you will feel sorry.
Ona dikkat etmek lazım.
You will be in a miserable state in the end if you do not pay attention to this, and therefore one must be very careful about this matter.
Muhakkak bunu aileler, çoluk çocuklarına yapması lazım.
And families, they must pay attention to this matter, especially when raising their children. they must set these kinds of limits.
Bu sınır mühimdir.
It is important to set limitations.
Hürriyet sınırsız hürriyet olmaz. Sınırsız hürriyet olunca kötü oluyor.
Freedom cannot be without limits. If there is no limitation to freedom, then it will become something bad.
Başkasının hakkına giriyorsun, başkasının hududuna giriyorsun.
Because freedom without limits means violating other people's rights.
Onun için her şeyi nefsini zapt etmek için
Therefore, one must set limits to one's ego in order to control one's ego.
sınır koymak lazım. Nefsine de sınır koymak lazım. Senin nefsinin hakkı var, hakkı olmayan şey var.
And in order to control one's ego, one must set limits. There are things which your ego is entitled to do or to have, and there are also things which your ego cannot have, and one must set those limits.
Ona dikkat etmek lazım.
Pay attention to this matter.
Allah yardım etsin.
May Allah Almighty help us.
Hakikaten çok zor zamanlarda yaşıyoruz.
We now live in very difficult times.
Her taraf tehlike, her taraf
There's danger lurking everywhere.
kötülük.
There's badness.
Yani o ayetlerin içinde de gene bir hayli pislikler
And there's so many filthy and dirty things in those devices.
çıkıyor. Çoluk çocuğun yüzüne karşısına. İnsanlar eskiden evlenecekleri vakit ancak o şeyleri biliyordu. Şimdi
Children get to see on those devices things which they would only know once they were married.
2 yaşında, 3 yaşındaki çocuklara gösteriyorlar.
Now they show those things to children with just 2 or 3 years of age.
Allah yardım etsin.
May Allah Almighty help us.
Allah muhafaza etsin.
May Allah Almighty protect us.
Allah sahip göndersin artık inşallah.
And may Allah Almighty finally, inshallah, send Mahdi alayhi salam.
Amin Allah tevfik. El-Fatih.